The resolute Dawn moved through the dark emptiness of space like a silent giant. Its long silver hull reflected faint light from a distant star, giving it the look of a blade drifting among shadows. Inside, the air was calm but tense. The hum of engines filled the corridors, steady and deep, like the heartbeat of a sleeping beast. Captain Mira stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the wide view screen. She was a tall woman with steady hands and a calm voice. Years of service had given her a habit of noticing details others would miss. She wore the plain, dark uniform of the human Stellar Navy, her rank displayed on her collar. "Status report," she said softly. The crew worked around her, each at their own station. Pavel, the navigation officer, looked up from his console. "Course steady. We are entering the outer Vega belt. No ship traffic detected." Lena, the communications officer, added, "Long-range sensors are clear. No signals, no distress calls." Mira gave a small nod. "Good. Maintain survey protocols." The mission was supposed to be simple. The Resolute Dawn had been sent to scan the asteroids of the Vega belt for mineral-rich deposits. The crew had done similar work many times before, yet Mira had a feeling in her chest that something was different this time. She did not voice it, but it made her eyes sharper as she studied the screen. Far from the human ship, hidden behind a large, tumbling asteroid, another vessel lurked. It was smaller, darker, and carried a different purpose: the Zor Raider ship. Fractal had been following the Resolute Dawn for 2 days, its crew silent as predators. Inside the Fractal, Commander Threx leaned forward in his chair, watching his own display. His yellow eyes narrowed. The image of the human ship was sharp and still. "There it is," he said to his crew. "Big, slow, unescorted. Perfect." The Zor were not new to raiding. For years they had attacked weak transport ships and unguarded, stations taking cargo and vanishing before help could arrive. To them, a human science vessel was an easy prize. They had no reason to think this would be different. A younger Zor officer, his voice eager, asked, "Shall we strike now, Commander?" Threx gave a slow grin. His teeth were sharp, his voice low. "Not yet. We wait until they are deep inside the belt. Less chance of anyone hearing their calls for help." Back on the Resolute Dawn, Mira's uneasy feeling grew. She walked from the bridge to the observation deck, looking out at the scattered rocks of the belt. Each asteroid turned, slowly in the light of the distant sun. The view was peaceful, but Mira knew that peace in space could be a mask. She returned to the bridge. "Pavel, adjust course to bring us closer to Cluster 9, she ordered. "Lena, keep scanning for anything unusual." The hours passed slowly. The ship glided deeper between the drifting stones. In the dark behind them, the Fractal followed, moving like a shadow that knew how to hide from light. Commander Threx watched the human vessel's path. "They go exactly where we want them. Prepare the boarding pods, arm the magnetic grapplers. When I give the signal, we disable their engines and attach to the hull. No heavy fire. I want that ship intact." His crew worked quickly. Long metallic pods were loaded with armed raiders. The grapplers were primed. Energy weapons were charged. To minimum power, enough to cripple but not destroy. The moment came when the human ship slowed slightly, adjusting its route between 2 massive asteroids. Threx gave the order. "Strike!" The Zor ship surged forward, breaking from its hiding place. In seconds, it closed the distance. Beams of blue energy shot from its weapons, hitting the Resolute Dawn's rear shields. The impact shook Mira's. "Bridge! Shields holding!" Pavel called out. "But we are being scanned." Mira's eyes narrowed. "Source?" "Unknown ship, bearing 250, Lena answered quickly. "Put it on screen." The image appeared. A dark, angular vessel. Moving fast and low, its weapons glowed faintly. Mira's stomach tightened. "Evasive pattern Delta 3, she ordered. Pavel's hands flew over the controls, but the Zor ship was already firing again. The next blast shook the human vessel harder, lights flickering for a moment. "They're targeting our engines," the engineer's voice came from the comm. Mira's voice was steady, but her mind moved fast. "Redirect power to forward shields. Keep engines running at all cost." Outside, the Zor launched their magnetic grapplers. 4 large claws shot through space, clamping onto the Resolute Dawn's hull with a deep metallic thud. Boarding pods followed, their sharp noses punching into the outer plating. On the Hraktal, Threx smiled as he saw the pods connect. "They will run to escape pods, like all the others. We will take the ship without trouble." Inside the Resolute Dawn, alarms sounded. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Mira stood firm on the bridge, looking at the crew. "Stay calm. We've trained for this. Lock down outer sections. Do not engage them directly until I give the order." Her words carried a quiet strength, and the crew obeyed without hesitation. In the far sections of the ship, the Zor raiders broke through their pods into dimly lit corridors. They moved quickly, scanning for resistance. But the halls were empty. The air was still. One raider spoke into his comm, his voice confused. "No sign of crew, no defense." "Where are they?" Another replied with a chuckle. "Hiding. It will make the hunt more fun." None of them noticed the small black orbs mounted in the corners of the ceiling. None of them knew that behind the silence, the human crew was watching every step they took. On the bridge, Mira's eyes stayed on her. Tactical display. Green dots marked her crew's safe locations. Red dots marked the invaders. She watched the patterns, reading their movements like a puzzle. "They think we're weak," she said softly, almost to herself. "They think we're simple." She turned to her crew. "Let them think so. For now." The Resolute Dawn drifted slowly between the asteroids, the raiders inside believing they had already won. But in the heart of the human ship, the real game had just begun. The metallic hiss of pressurizing air echoed through the Resolute Dawn's outer corridors as the Zor boarding pods locked into place. Their cutting drills spun with a sharp whine, slicing through the human ship's armor. Inside the bridge, Captain Mira watched the sensor feed. Tiny red blips multiplied on her display as more invaders entered the ship. Pavel kept his voice steady. 5 boarding points confirmed. 2 near cargo bays, 2 in engineering access, 1 near the outer maintenance deck. Lock the blast. Doors behind them, Mira ordered. Seal sections 4 through 8. All over the ship, thick steel doors slammed shut with a heavy thud. The corridors went dark, except for the dim, red emergency lights. In the cargo bay, the first Zor team stepped into the silent space. Their armor was dark gray, covered in scratches from years of raids. They carried compact energy rifles and moved, in groups of 3, scanning every shadow. The leader, a tall Zor with a deep scar across his jaw, opened his comm. "Bay is clear. No crew. No resistance." From the command room deep within the ship, Lena listened to the intercepted chatter. "They're reporting no signs of us," she said with a faint smile. "That's the point," Mira replied. "Let them get comfortable." Elsewhere, in the outer maintenance deck, another group of raiders entered through a hole in the wall where their pod had cut through. They stepped over bits of metal, their heavy boots clanging on the deck plates. One of them kicked open a storage crate, spilling harmless tools onto the floor. "They left in a hurry," the raider muttered to his partner. The leader of that group, less patient than the others, pressed his clawed hand to the comm device on his wrist. "Commander Threx, we have control of the outer section. No human crew here." On the Hraktal, Commander Threx listened to his reports with satisfaction. His claws tapped against the armrest of his command chair. "Continue searching. Secure the ship. Bridge first, then engineering." Back on the Resolute Dawn, Mira's eyes narrowed as she studied the enemy's movement. The red dots were spreading out in predictable patterns. They were heading exactly where she wanted them to go. "Activate camera feeds in zones 5 and 6, she said. Lena tapped the controls, and several displays lit up with grainy video. The Zor raiders moved slowly through the empty halls. Their weapons were raised, but their posture was more relaxed now. They saw no danger and no crew. Pavel glanced at Mira. "Should we engage them now?" "Not yet," Mira replied. "Let them move deeper. We'll cut them off from their pods." In Cargo Bay 2, the scarred Zor leader gave a signal, and his team began opening containers. They expected food, fuel cells, or rare minerals. Instead, they found sealed crates marked with warning symbols they didn't recognize. One of them pried a lid open and saw rows of cylindrical devices, empty power cells, useless to them. "This is scrap," the leader growled. "Where's the valuable cargo?" Far away on the engineering deck, another team of raiders moved cautiously toward the reactor chamber. The hum of the engines grew louder as they approached, but when they forced open the door, they found the room completely dark. No reactor was visible, only empty metal walls. "This is wrong," one raider muttered. "The heart of the ship should be here." Back on the Hraktal, Threx frowned as the reports came in. "Empty cargo, empty engineering. What game are they playing?" On the Resolute Dawn, Mira's voice was calm as she addressed her crew. "Time to cut their path. Close every door between them and their pods. Shut down the outer hull connections." With a few keystrokes, Pavel activated the lockdown sequence. Heavy blast doors sealed with an echoing clang. The Zor raiders spun around at the sound, their comms filling with confused voices. "What was that?" one shouted. "Our way back is closed," another answered, his tone tense. Then the ship's lights shifted. The white glow in the corridors faded, replaced by deep red illumination. The hum of the engines was replaced by the low growl of the ship's automated systems powering up. In the silence that followed, a faint metallic clicking sound echoed from the walls. The Zor raiders stopped and listened, their weapons raised. The clicking grew louder, moving quickly along the ceiling. In a narrow corridor near the maintenance deck, a small black sphere the size of a helmet rolled from a vent and stopped in front of a group of raiders. It unfolded into 3 thin legs and a single glowing blue eye. "What is that?" a raider said, stepping closer. The sphere suddenly leapt forward with surprising speed, zipping past them. The moment it passed, the lights above flickered, and the raiders' weapons went dead. Their power cells drained in an instant. "Defensive drones," one of them hissed. "This ship has them." Similar drones appeared in other sections. Some zipped along walls, others hovered silently, projecting scanning beams that tracked every raider's movement. Non-lethal stun turrets folded out from hidden wall panels, their barrels glowing faintly as they charged. From the command room, Mira watched the map. "They're contained. Now we make them move where we want." Lena activated the environmental controls. Air pressure began to drop in certain corridors, forcing the invaders to retreat toward the central hangar. Doors that had been locked suddenly opened, but only in the direction Mira wanted. The Zor were unknowingly being herded like animals toward a trap. In one cargo bay, a group of raiders tried to cut through a door, but the moment their tools touched the surface, a burst of electrical current ran through it, knocking them back. Another group tried to force a ventilation panel open, only for a drone to drop from above and spray them with a blinding burst of harmless but disorienting gas. On the Harak Tal, Threx's voice turned sharp. "Report! What is happening in there?" Replies came in bursts of panic. "Doors sealed, weapons dead, unknown machines everywhere. They are controlling the ship from inside." Threx's eyes narrowed. "So the humans stayed aboard. They are playing with us. Back on the Resolute." Dawn. Mira could almost hear the frustration in the enemy's voices through the intercepted comms. She allowed herself the faintest smile. "They thought this would be simple," she said quietly to Pavel and Lena. They were wrong. The invaders had made their first contact with the heart of a human starship, and it was not a meeting of equals. The Resolute Dawn had gone silent except for the steady thrum of its engines. The Zor raiders were scattered through its halls, trapped behind sealed blast doors and cut off from their boarding pods. The deep red light bathing the corridors made the air feel heavier, more oppressive. The humans had not fired a single shot, yet the invaders were already uneasy. Captain Mira stood in the command room, her eyes on the tactical map. The red dots that marked enemy positions had stopped moving freely. Instead, they clustered in pockets where the humans had forced them. Her crew worked with quiet focus, their hands moving over controls with precision. "Report," Mira said. Pavel replied, "Section 4 is sealed tight. 6 hostiles inside. Section 7, 9 hostiles. No weapons power. Central hangar, still, empty, waiting for them," Lena added. "They're trying to break through Bulkhead 3, but our seals are holding. No breach detected." Mira studied the map for another moment, then gave a short nod. "Time to move them. Start Phase 2. Lena tapped a series of commands into her console. All over the ship, vents hissed as the environmental systems shifted. In some corridors, air pressure dropped slightly, making it harder for the invaders to breathe. In others, lights flashed in quick bursts, disorienting the Zor and forcing them to move toward the only safe, well-lit path, the one leading to the hangar. In Section 4, the group of 6 raiders looked around as the air grew thin. One of them coughed into his mask. "We can't stay here. This deck is being vented," the leader snarled in frustration. "Move to the open corridor. We regroup and find another way to the pods." But when they reached the next junction, the door behind them slammed shut with a heavy clang. The only path left was forward. The same was happening in other parts of the ship. The humans were not chasing them. They were guiding them without ever showing their faces. In Section 7, a drone hovered at the far end of the hall, its single blue eye fixed on the raiders. They fired at it, but their weapons stayed dead, the energy drained by earlier pulses. The drone tilted slightly, almost like a silent challenge, then zipped away down the hall. Without thinking, the raiders followed. Inside the command room, Lena smiled faintly. They're taking the bait. The corridors leading to the hangar grew wider and brighter. The dull red light shifted to a clear white, and the oppressive air cleared. The Zor felt a wave of relief. They believed they had found a safe place to regroup. One by one, the groups entered the hangar. The large chamber was silent except for the distant hum of machinery. Rows of crates and containers lined the walls. Overhead, the catwalks were empty. "This is big enough to hold the whole crew," one raider muttered. The scarred leader from the cargo bay team barked into his comm. "Commander Threx, we have a large open space. We will hold here and plan our route to the bridge." On the Hraktal, Threx's voice was sharp. "Stay alert. Something is wrong. Humans do not abandon their ship this easily." In the hangar, the raiders began stacking crates to form cover, preparing for what they thought would be a direct fight. But above them, hidden in the shadows of the catwalks, small circular ports began to open in the walls. From her command seat, Mira gave the order. Phase 3. Contain them. With a soft mechanical hiss, steel barriers dropped from the hangar doors, sealing every exit. The sound made the raiders spin around in alarm. One rushed to the nearest door and slammed his fist against the control panel, but it was locked. Then came the drones. They poured from the open ports, dozens of black spheres gliding smoothly through the air. Each one projected a scanning beam that swept over the raiders, mapping their positions. Some hovered in place like sentinels. Others zipped between the stacked crates, herding the Zor away from the walls and toward the center of the hangar. A low, steady voice echoed from hidden speakers. It was Mira's voice, calm and firm. "You have entered a human vessel without permission. You are trespassing. You are surrounded. You will be restrained." The Zor leaders exchanged glances. The voice was not angry. It was not loud. It was confident. One of the younger raiders snarled. "We are warriors. We do not surrender." He charged toward a drone, swinging the butt of his weapon like a club. The drone darted upward, avoiding. The blow then released a quick burst of bright blue light. The raider collapsed to his knees, stunned but unharmed. Another tried to shoot the drones with a backup pistol, but the weapon clicked uselessly. Energy cells were still dead. The drones closed in slowly, forming a tight circle. From the ceiling, thin metallic arms extended, each tipped with a clamp. They moved with mechanical precision, waiting for the order to secure the invaders. In the command room, Pavel looked to Mira. "They're in position." Mira gave a single nod. "Do it." The clamps descended. The raiders fought, but without. Working weapons, and with the drones moving in perfect coordination, they had no real chance. One by one, they were pinned and bound with magnetic restraints. The scarred leader struggled the longest, knocking one drone aside with his shoulder, before two more tackled him from behind. Within minutes, the hangar was silent again. All the invaders were restrained in the center of the room, surrounded by hovering drones. Mira stood from her seat. "Bridge, you have control. I'll go meet our guests." She walked through the ship's inner corridors, passing crew members who were now emerging from hidden stations. They saluted as she passed, their faces calm but proud. This was their ship, and it had just proven itself against a dangerous foe. When she entered the hangar, the Zor leader lifted his head to glare at her. "You planned this?" Mira met his gaze without flinching. "Of course. You thought you were the hunters. But this is a human starship. We are never easy prey." The drones tightened their circle, and the remaining crew stepped into the hangar to assist with securing the prisoners. The trap had worked exactly as Mira intended. The Resolute Dawn had gone from target to victor without a single human life lost. Outside, the vast emptiness of the Vega Belt stretched on, unaware of the brief, silent battle that had taken place within its shadows. The hangar doors stayed sealed, and the quiet hum of the drones filled the air. The captured Zor raiders sat in a tight group, their wrists and ankles bound by magnetic restraints. Captain Mira stood at the edge of the circle, her hands clasped, behind her back studying them. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "You came here thinking you would take our ship," she said, her voice even. "Instead, you are our guests." The scarred Zor leader glared at her. "You cannot hold us. Our commander will come." Mira tilted her head slightly. "Your commander will learn what happens when you challenge a human vessel." She turned to her crew. "Move them to holding cells. Then secure the hangar for incoming equipment." Pavel and two other officers stepped forward. With the drone's help, they lifted each restrained raider and escorted them toward the secure corridor leading to the brig. The prisoners struggled, but the magnetic bonds held firm. Once the last Zor was gone, Mira tapped her comm. "Bridge, status on the rest of the ship." Lena's voice came back clearly. "All sections are secure. No more hostiles detected. Engineering systems are stable. We still have full control." Mira gave a small nod to herself. "Good. Maintain scans for any approaching vessels. If the Hraktal moves, I want to know instantly." In the command room, Lena's hands moved quickly over the controls. The sensor grid was already tracking the dark shape of the Zor raider ship, which was keeping a cautious distance. The Hraktal had not fired again since sending its boarding parties. Commander Threx was watching, waiting, and perhaps planning his next move. In the brig, the prisoners sat in individual cells made of reinforced, transparent walls. The magnetic restraints were removed, but force fields kept them inside. Pavel stood watch with two other crew members, their stun rifles slung at the ready. The scarred leader sat closest to the control panel. His yellow eyes followed every movement of the humans. "You think you are clever," he said coldly. "But we will not be broken." Pavel's voice was steady. "You already are. You just don't know it yet." Meanwhile, Mira walked through the ship's inner maintenance corridors toward a smaller control station located deep in the core of the vessel. This was where the most sensitive systems were monitored: life support, structural integrity, and the advanced sensor grid. Lena's voice came through the comm again. "Captain, the Hraktal is moving slightly. No weapons charged yet, but they are adjusting their position." Mira paused, thinking quickly. "They are looking for a weakness. Let's give them a false one." Within minutes, a plan was in motion. The crew simulated a minor power fluctuation in the Resolute Dawn's aft section. From the outside, it would appear as if the human ship had suffered a small systems failure. In truth, the systems were fine, but the display was designed to draw the enemy closer. On the Hraktal, Threx's eyes narrowed as he saw the flicker on his screens. "They are damaged," he said. "Perhaps their defenses are weaker now. Prepare to advance." His second-in-command hesitated. "But the boarding teams, they failed," Threx interrupted sharply. "We will finish this ourselves. Bring us into firing range." Back on the Resolute Dawn, Mira's crew tracked the Zor ship's approach. Pavel spoke quickly. "They are moving into position on our starboard side," Mira nodded. "Hold position until they are in range of our countermeasures." The tension on the bridge was thick. Every crew member knew this was the moment to shift from defense to offense. The Hraktal closed the distance, its weapons glowing faintly. Threx gave the order to lock on to the human vessel's engines. "Disable them. Leave the hull intact. Before." The first shot could be fired. Mira gave her own order. "Activate grid." From the outer hull of the Resolute Dawn, panels slid open, revealing a series of cylindrical emitters. They released a rapid sequence of short, focused energy pulses. The pulses struck the Hraktal's weapon ports and sensor arrays with precision. On the Zor ship, alarms blared as targeting systems failed. Weapons went offline. The bridge crew scrambled to restore power, but every attempt was met with another precise energy pulse from the human ship. "They are hitting only our weapons," the Zor weapons officer said, panic in his voice. Threx's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. "They are disabling us without destroying us." On the Resolute Dawn, Lena reported calmly. "Enemy weapons fully offline. Their navigation is still functional, but they have no ability to fire." Mira leaned back slightly in her chair. "Good, send them a message. Let them know they are free to leave. But their boarding teams remain with us." A transmission was sent, carrying Mira's clear, measured voice. "Zor vessel, you have been disarmed. You may depart at any time. Your crew members will be released after we return to human-controlled space. Any attempt to attack again will end with the destruction of your ship." There was no immediate reply, but the Hraktal began to pull away, its engines burning bright as it retreated toward the edge of sensor range. In the brig, the scarred leader watched silently as the hum of the ship changed. "They are leaving," Pavel told him. The Zor's expression hardened. "This is not the end." Pavel simply replied, "It's the end for today." Later, in the mess hall, the crew gathered for a brief meal. The tension of battle was replaced by quiet satisfaction. Some exchanged small smiles. Others spoke in low voices about how smoothly the plan had worked. Mira stood at the head of the table. "We faced a threat today, and we did not just survive. We controlled the fight from start to finish. Remember this moment. Word will spread, and our enemies will think twice before trying again." The crew raised their cups in a silent toast. Outside the thick hull of the Resolute Dawn, the stars of the Vega Belt shimmered in the dark, bearing witness to the shift in power that had just taken place. The tide had turned, and the humans were the ones steering it now. The Resolute Dawn drifted through the Vega Belt, its engines quiet but powerful. The ship had regained calm after the recent boarding and the retreat of the Hraktal. Captain Mira stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the stars for any sign of further threats. Despite the apparent safety, She knew that the Zor could return with reinforcements at any moment. "Status report," she said, her voice calm but firm. Lena checked the sensors. "The Hroktal is moving away at moderate speed. Their weapons. Remain offline. No other ships detected in the area." "Good. Keep scanning," Mira replied. "I want to know the moment anything changes." Pavel adjusted the navigation controls slightly. "We can continue our survey in the Vega Belt, or we can head toward human-controlled space for debriefing and repairs." Mira considered this for a moment. "We continue. We have work to do, and there is no reason to retreat. But keep our defenses on maximum. Any unexpected movement, and we respond immediately." The crew went back to their tasks, but the ship's atmosphere was tense. Even with the Zor retreating, every sensor was monitored. Every blip on the screens could be a returning threat. Deep. In the engineering section, the remaining human crew worked on the ship's core systems. This was not just maintenance, it was preparation. Every panel, every conduit, every emitter was checked and reinforced. Lena's voice came over the comm. "Captain, all systems are operational. We are ready if the Zor decide to return." Mira nodded to herself. "Good. But let's see if they are foolish enough to test us." Meanwhile, Commander Threx watched the retreating Resolute Dawn from his ship. His yellow eyes burned with frustration. "They humiliated us," he growled. "Our boarding parties failed, and we cannot strike them from a distance. We need a plan that will work." A young Zor officer spoke nervously. "Commander, their hull is strong. Their defenses are advanced. Any attack may fail again." Threx's claws tightened on the armrest of his command chair. "We will find a weakness. Every ship has one. Every human has one." Back on the human ship, Mira had a different kind of preparation in mind. In the deepest part of the Resolute Dawn's core, a hidden chamber contained a system unknown even to most crew members. It was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It did not shoot or explode. It did not destroy. But it had been designed to neutralize threats in a way the Zor could not anticipate. Pavel was the first to enter the chamber. He ran his hands over the control panels, activating the sequence. Small cylindrical emitters hidden in the walls of the ship began to hum faintly. The system was ready. Lena joined him. "This is the unseen weapon," she said quietly. "It targets their technology, not their lives. It will disable their ships without harm to anyone." Mira entered the room shortly afterward, her presence commanding attention. "Then let's hope they come closer. They will not know what hit them." Hours passed with quiet efficiency. The Hroktal remained at a distance, possibly wondering if the human ship had weakened after the initial confrontation. Its sensors might have detected the silent hum from the unseen weapon, but the Zor would not understand what it meant. Suddenly, alarms blared softly in the control room. Lena's fingers flew over the keys. "Captain, the Hroktal is adjusting its approach. They are coming closer, possibly trying to test us." Mira straightened. "Very well. Prepare the system." In seconds, the emitters along the Resolute. Dawn's outer hull activated. A subtle pulse of energy moved through space toward the approaching Zor ship. It was not visible, not detectable by ordinary sensors, and yet it carried a precise effect. The Hroktal's systems began to flicker. The first to fail were the weapon arrays. Energy weapons went dead one by one. Lights dimmed in some sections, and targeting computers froze. Alarms rang throughout the bridge of the Zor ship. Threx's claws lashed at the control panels. "What is happening?" he roared. "Weapons offline! Sensors failing! Engines unstable! What did they do?" The young officer beside him tried to respond, but the words caught in his throat. It is the human ship. Something from their hull is affecting us. We cannot counter it." On the resolute dawn, Mira observed the effects on her monitors. She saw the red blips of the Zor's ship falter and stumble through space. Her crew maintained calm as the humans watched the enemy struggle without firing a single shot. "Excellent," she said softly. "This is exactly why we build ships for more than travel. They are built for survival, for control, for advantage." The pulse continued, subtly interfering with the Zor ship's energy distribution. The shields of the Hraktal weakened slightly, and its navigation became less precise. The ship began to drift in a slight curve, unable to maintain a straight course toward the humans. Threx's frustration boiled over. "Divert all power to engines! We will escape their influence!" The crew scrambled, but the pulses followed them, adjusting automatically to each movement. The human system was adaptive, designed to respond to the Zor technology. It was invisible, silent, and unstoppable from their perspective. Pavel checked the energy levels. "Captain, their weapons remain offline. Systems are disrupted, but they are still functional enough to try maneuvers." Mira nodded. "Keep monitoring. Let them tire themselves out. They do not yet know the true reach of our defenses." Minutes passed with the Zor struggling against an enemy they could not see. Their communications were scrambled intermittently, forcing them to rely on their instincts and incomplete information. Their attacks were impossible. Every attempt to fire or adjust energy outputs failed. Finally, Threx made a desperate decision. "Pull back to maximum range," he ordered. "We will retreat for now. This human vessel, it is not what we expected." The Hraktal began its slow withdrawal. The unseen weapon maintained its subtle pressure, ensuring the Zor could not regroup quickly or launch another attack without leaving themselves vulnerable. Back on the resolute dawn, Mira allowed herself a small smile. "They will return," she said, "but they will think twice before trying again." Lena looked at her. "And when they do?" "We will be ready," Mira replied. "The unseen weapon is only part of our advantage. Our crew, our strategy, our ability to act together. This is what makes humans unpredictable. That is our strength." In the brig, the captured raiders watched the distant blips of their retreating ship. They understood that their fleet had failed this encounter, not through brute force, but because of human ingenuity. Frustration, confusion, and a touch of fear showed in their yellow eyes. Pavel glanced at Mira. "They have learned that human. Ships are not simple targets." "Not yet," Mira said firmly, "but they will remember." As the resolute dawn continued its patrol through the Vega Belt, the human crew went about their duties with calm confidence. Every system functioned perfectly, every crew member was alert, and every sensor monitored the empty dark of space. The unseen weapon had demonstrated its power, but more importantly, it had shown a principle. Humans were never easy prey. Every ship, every crew member, every decision was part of a larger strategy. And in this strategy, the enemy could not predict the next move. The Vega Belt stretched endlessly around them, filled with asteroids and shadows. But now it also held a silent message. Attacking a human starship was far from simple. The Vega Belt stretched endlessly around the resolute dawn, dark and silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Captain Mira stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the empty void for any sign of returning threats. The encounter with the Hrak Tal had been a lesson in strategy and patience, but Mira knew the Zor were cunning and would not give up easily. "Status," she said. Lena responded, "All systems green. Sensors show no movement from the Zor fleet. The Hrak Tal is at maximum range and holding position. No weapons detected." Pavel leaned over his console. "They are observing, likely trying to understand what happened. They will strike again, if they think they can gain the advantage." Mira nodded. "Good. Let them watch. Our strength is more than just our systems. It is our ability to act as one. Everyone stay alert. We finish this on our terms." Below decks, the captured Zor. Raiders were still secured in the brig. They sat in silence, their claws tapping lightly against the magnetic restraints. The scarred leader who had led the first boarding stared at the distant blips of his ship. "We were outsmarted," he admitted quietly to the others. "These humans, they are different," one of the younger raiders hissed. "We will return with reinforcements. They cannot stop all of us." The scarred leader shook his head. "Do not underestimate humans. One ship, one crew. They held us without lethal force and disabled our weapons. Remember this." On the bridge, Mira tapped a sequence into the tactical console. "Prepare Phase 4, she said. Pavel's eyes widened slightly. "Captain, do you mean?" "Yes," Mira replied firmly. "It is time to force their final decision. The unseen weapon is effective, but it is not enough to end this. We need to show the full measure of human ingenuity." Within the core of the ship, the crew activated a series of auxiliary systems. Hidden emitters along the hull began a new sequence, this time creating a controlled field around the Vega Belt in the immediate vicinity of the Hrak Tal. The field subtly manipulated gravitational vectors, forcing any ship within range to adjust its position continuously. The Zor could not fire accurately, they could not move predictably, and their maneuvers were now chaotic. From the bridge, Mira watched the red blip of the Hrak Tal wobble slightly in space. "They are reacting to our field," she said. "Hold steady. Let them tire themselves out." Pavel's fingers moved rapidly over the navigation console. "Captain, their engines are overworked. They are burning energy faster than they can manage. Weapons remain offline, sensors failing intermittently." Mira allowed herself a small nod. "Good. Keep them under observation, but maintain our position. We do not strike unless necessary." The Zor commander, Threx, was now pacing his bridge. The ship's automated warnings continued to sound, but the crew could do little. "This cannot be," he growled. "Our strategy, our advantage, it is useless. We are trapped by one human vessel." One officer hesitated. "Commander, if we retreat, they may pursue. But if we stay, we risk total incapacitation." Threx's yellow eyes narrowed. "Then we retreat, but slowly. Every movement must be careful. Do not test their patience." Back on the resolute dawn, Mira observed every calculation, every adjustment of the enemy ship. She allowed the Hrak Tal to back away slowly, giving the impression of mercy. "Let them leave," she said. "They will remember the cost of attacking a human vessel." The Vega belt was quiet again, but this time it carried the memory of what had occurred. The Resolute Dawn had proven that humans were not simple targets, that even a single crew with careful planning could control the outcome of a battle without risking lives unnecessarily. In the brig, the captured Zor were aware of their commanders. Retreat. Their leader looked at the humans who had outsmarted them. "These are not simple prey," he said to the others. "We underestimated them, and we will not do so again." The young raiders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "But how did they do it? We expected force, but nothing destroyed them. They controlled us without even touching us." The scarred leader's claws flexed. "This is why humans survive. Not because they are stronger, but because they understand every part of their ship, their crew, and their mind. Remember this lesson." Meanwhile, Mira walked along the inner corridors, checking on her crew. They moved efficiently, but there was a quiet sense of pride in their actions. Every system had worked perfectly, every plan had succeeded, and every crew member had executed their orders without hesitation. In the engineering bay, Pavel and Lena were already reviewing the performance of the unseen weapon and the auxiliary field. "The system responded flawlessly," Pavel said. Lena nodded. "The adaptive protocols held the enemy ship in place and minimized energy waste. They will think twice before returning." Mira placed a hand on the edge of the console. "Good, but we cannot be complacent. They will come back, perhaps with more ships. We must be ready to act again." Above them, the Vega belt sparkled with distant starlight, seemingly calm but now carrying the silent testimony of human ingenuity. The Rocktal was gone, but the lessons of today would not be forgotten. In the crew quarters, a small group of humans gathered for a brief rest. Their faces were calm, their spirits lifted by the victory. They spoke in low tones about how smoothly the battle had gone, how each system had performed, and how the Zor had underestimated them. Mira stood at the door, listening. "We do not underestimate any opponent," she said. "We respect the threat, and we prepare. That is why we survive, and that is why humans endure." As night passed in the endless expanse of space, the Resolute Dawn continued its patrol. Every sensor scanned the dark, every system remained active, and every crew member stayed alert. The Vega belt had been a testing ground, and the humans had passed with distinction. Outside the ship, the stars stretched on, seemingly indifferent. But within the Resolute Dawn, a message had been written clearly for any who would watch. Attacking a human starship was never simple, and no enemy could take it lightly. Captain Mira returned to the bridge, standing tall as she observed the calm of space. "Today, we have done more than defend our ship," she said quietly. "We have shown what humans are capable of when strategy, technology, and courage work together. The enemy may return, but they will never approach us the same way again." The crew worked quietly around her, each aware of their own part in the larger victory. The Resolute Dawn moved steadily through the asteroid field, unbroken, untouchable, and ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. The final push had succeeded. The human starship had turned the tide, and the Vega belt would remember. The Vega belt stretched endlessly around the Resolute Dawn, a quiet expanse of stars and floating rocks. The Rocktal had retreated beyond sensor range, and the captured Zor raiders were secure in the brig. For the first time since the boarding attack, the human crew felt a cautious calm. Captain Mira stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the dark void outside. The red blips of the Zor ship had disappeared, leaving only distant stars. She allowed herself a small sigh, a rare moment of relaxation after days of tension. "Status report," she said, her voice calm but firm. Lena checked the sensors. "All systems fully operational, no vessels detected nearby. Our weapons, engines, and defenses are at maximum efficiency. The Vega belt is clear." Pavel leaned over the navigation console. "The enemy is gone for now. The Heraktal is retreating. No signs of reinforcements detected." Mira nodded. "Good. Keep scanning, but maintain standard patrol. We cannot assume this is the end. They may return, but they will think twice after today." The crew moved efficiently, yet there was a subtle sense of pride among them. Every system had performed perfectly. Every plan had succeeded, and every human aboard the Resolute Dawn had played a part in proving the ship's strength and the crew's ingenuity. In the brig, the captured Zor raiders remained restrained. Their leader, the scarred veteran, stared silently at the distant Vega belt. "These humans," he said quietly to his companions, "are not ordinary. One ship, one crew. They controlled us without firing a single shot. They made us powerless." A younger raider hissed in frustration. "We will return with reinforcements. We cannot accept defeat." The scarred leader shook his head. "Remember this. Humans do not fight the way we expect. They prepare, they adapt, and they think in ways we cannot predict. If we underestimate them again, it will be worse." Meanwhile, Mira moved through the inner corridors, checking on her crew and ensuring every system remained stable. The unseen weapon had demonstrated its effectiveness, but she knew true victory was not about a single system. It was about the coordination of every part of the ship and every crew member. In the engineering bay, Pavel and Lena reviewed the performance logs. "The systems held perfectly," Pavel said, tapping the console. "Every drone, every emitter, every control worked as designed." Lena nodded. "The Heraktal will remember this. They will return only if they believe they can counter us. But the truth is they cannot. Not yet." Mira entered, placing her hands on the console. "Good work, but we cannot grow complacent. We celebrate today, but tomorrow we prepare again. That is what it means to be human." Above them, the Vega belt appeared calm, but the memory of the battle lingered in every corner of the Resolute Dawn. The Zor had believed the human ship to be an easy target. They had been wrong, and the lesson would echo throughout their fleet. In the mess hall, the crew gathered briefly. There were smiles and quiet conversations, a mixture of relief and pride. They spoke of their roles, the coordination that had worked flawlessly, and the strategy that had turned the tide against a technologically superior foe. Mira joined them, standing at the center of the room. "Today we faced a threat we could not have predicted," she said, "and yet we succeeded. Not because of strength alone, but because of teamwork, planning, and courage. Every one of you played a part, and every one of you should be proud." The crew raised their cups in a silent toast. The Vega belt outside remained quiet and still, a witness to the display of human ingenuity and resilience. Later, Mira walked alone along the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly around her. She thought about the enemy, the Hraktal, and the lessons learned today. Humans had shown that even in the vastness of space, with countless unknown threats, courage and intelligence could overcome fear and force. She turned her gaze to the brig. The captured raiders were restrained but unharmed. The humans had shown strength without unnecessary cruelty. This, she thought, was what made humans different. They were adaptable, clever, and resilient, not just in combat, but in principle. Pavel approached her quietly. "Captain, do you think they will return?" Mira considered this. Perhaps. But they will never approach the same way again. Today we set an example. They will remember the cost of underestimating a human starship. In the brig, the scarred Zor leader had a similar thought. He watched the humans with a grudging respect. "They are not what we expected," he admitted. "We will need new strategies if we confront them again. One ship, one crew, they defeated us without destroying us. That is a lesson." The younger raiders murmured among themselves, clearly uneasy. The experience had shaken them. The humans had been unpredictable, coordinated, and deadly, without being violent. That combination, they realized, made them dangerous. Back on the bridge, Mira checked the status of the Vega Belt. Asteroids drifted silently, stars glittered faintly, and the void of space stretched endlessly. Her crew worked efficiently, every system ready. Lena reported, "All systems optimal, no anomalies detected. The Vega Belt is calm for now." Mira allowed herself a faint smile. "Good, but keep watching. Calm is temporary. Vigilance is permanent." Pavel adjusted the navigation slightly. "We can continue exploration, or we can chart a course back to human-controlled space." Mira considered the vastness outside. "We continue, we learn, we explore, and we remain prepared. That is how humans survive. That is how humans thrive." The Resolute Dawn moved steadily through the Vega Belt, its crew alert, confident, and ready for whatever challenge awaited. The Zor had retreated, but the knowledge that humans were not simple prey would spread quickly throughout their fleet. As the ship sailed through the stars, Captain Mira reflected on the victory. The unseen weapon, the drones, and the clever strategy had proven effective, but the true strength of the humans had been their unity, their intelligence, and their courage under pressure. No system or device alone could have achieved this result. It was the crew, working together, who made the difference. In the quiet of the bridge, Mira spoke softly to herself. "Humans endure. Humans adapt, and humans never give up. That is our greatest strength." Outside, the Vega Belt remained vast and silent, but the message had been sent. Attacking a human starship was never simple, and no enemy could take such a challenge lightly. The crew of the Resolute Dawn worked efficiently, quietly proud of their accomplishment. They knew that one day the Zor or some other enemy might return. But they were ready, stronger than ever, and capable of facing whatever came next. Captain Mira stood at the observation deck one last time, gazing at the stars. She allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The battle had been won, but the lesson was clear. Humans were more than their technology. Humans were strategy, courage, and ingenuity. And in the vast darkness of space, Those qualities would always make them a force to be reckoned with. The Vega Belt continued its quiet drift, holding the memory of the human victory. The resolute Dawn sailed on, victorious, prepared, and unbroken. And its crew, united and capable, carried the spirit of humanity into the stars. The final word was clear. The humans had triumphed, not through brute force, but through intelligence, strategy, and teamwork. And the universe would remember that. Lesson: